Good day, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed viewers, listeners, and subscribers to Accent Radio. Welcome to another interesting and exciting edition of Let's Talk with Asset Litigation. And I remain your host, Barrister David Njoko Ono. And you know what we do here on Asset Litigation? We bring you the topical, juicy, interesting topics, and then we discuss them, we dissect them, we ensure that we demystify the law by speaking law in plain language. That means we take the issues of the street, we take stories from the street, and then we relate them to how law perceives them, and then we give solutions to that. And today will not be any different, as we'll be talking about something very, very interesting. You know, the pandemic of empty pockets that is ravaging most persons in Nigeria today. And as such, this pandemic of empty pockets has equally caused tenants to become rent-owing tenants and landlords to become creditors to tenants, because the rent has expired, rent has become due, but tenants don't have the money, the necessary enabling financial capacity to renew their rent, and they are the mercy of their landlord. Landlord doesn't want to eject such tenants because the tenant has promised, I will pay 1 month, I will pay 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, some as much as 6, 7 months, and they are yet to renew their rent, just at the living at the mercy of the landlord. And then all of a sudden, you go to that apartment as a landlord, you may no longer find the tenant. The tenant has evacuated overnight, and then possibly run away with the rent that he or she owes you and hasn't paid. So what do you do as a landlord in that instance? And it is as a result of these happenings, because we've had several complaints from landlords that tenants that owe their rent are scummed with their rent, their unpaid rent. And as such, they ask, what do we do? What do we do to prevent this from happening? And it's as a result of these reports we've gotten, that is what informed today's topic. We are going to be discussing, can a landlord prevent a tenant owing rent from leaving the premises? Can a landlord prevent tenants owing rent from leaving the premises? Remember, as a human being, you can either be a landlord or a tenant. If you are a landlord, this topic equally resonates with you. If you're a tenant, this topic equally concerns you a lot. So let's go into details. The essence of every landlord building a property is for investment purpose. So they want to get return on investment. Whether you are a landlord, you built a house for you to live or habit that premises, it's for investment purpose, so that tomorrow your children can have something to fall back on, and you yourself, even when you retire, you can have something to fall back on. That is why you built your house. So it's investment, it's for future purpose. If you built the house for the purpose of renting to tenants who will not pay either yearly or half a year rent to you, or a long lease to you, that is equally part of investment. So you must want to get your return on investment on your property at all times. You understand? That is the joy of making investment, that you get your return on investment. So what do you talk about a landlord who are having built his property and rented it to tenants, but can't get the return on investment? That is bad investment, you can say. So if the tenant is not paying the rent, it's bad investment. So what can the landlord do? The landlord has the opportunity, the option of issuing notice to quit to such tenant. And when the tenant has overstayed his welcome, that means if the period for which the tenancy was granted has expired, then the landlord can now issue the 7 days notice of owner's intention to recover premises to the tenant, and after then he has to go to court to be able to lawfully eject the tenant from the property. And when he ejects the tenant from the property, he will be asking the court for some remedies. The first remedy he will be asking the court is arrears of rent. That means those rents that the tenant did not pay from the date his rent expired up to the date the notice of which was issued to him. That is what we call arrears of rent. Now, after asking for arrears of rent, the landlord can go forward to ask for men's profits. What that means profit? Men's profit simply means the money due to the landlord as a result of rent that the tenant ought to pay but couldn't pay after the tenancy has been extinguished, after the tenancy has ended as a result of the notice to quit issued to the tenants which has elapsed. So the period from when your tenancy, your rent is supposed to be renewed up to the date the landlord issued you notice to quit and the notice to quit expires, that period what you are supposed to pay is arrears of rent. Then from the period when the notice of quit expires up to the day the landlord took you to court and judgment was given, that period, if it is 1 year, if it is 2 years, that period is period of men's profit. So what you pay is not arrears of rent anymore, but men's profit. That means what is the as presumable rent that you ought to pay if you had been a lawful tenant in the property for that period of 2 years or a year that the case lasted in court. So the court will now accumulate it and then come up with a figure and give you as much profit to pay. So that is one of the ways landlord can recover their rents from tenants who are owing them and whose tenancy has expired. So you can go to court and do that. But we had this incidents of landlords complaining that tenants owe them, and they will be pleading that give me time, give me a month, let me fix myself and I will pay you your rent. And that is how we continue until during the festive period. We are getting to the Christmas period when most persons will travel for one festive activity or the other, and you as a landlord you're feeling okay, my tenant traveled for Christmas or for one engagement or the other, and when he comes back he promised to pay me the rent, and all of a sudden by January the tenant doesn't return. The house is still under lock and key, and all of a sudden you wait January ending, he doesn't, you call him, he says, Oga, I have left your building, no, I have vacated your building. Now your question is, those periods that he didn't pay, how do you retrieve your money from him? You feel that you've been at loss. So the best way to go about it is still through the courts, because landlords may not like this answer because it's your money here that is involved, and you'll be thinking that amounts to stealing. So why don't I go report to the police, and then the police can trace him and get him arrested? The court has severally held that the police is not a debt recovery agency. Rent owed by a landlord, by tenants to a landlord, is a debt, because the debt is accruing from the contract, which is the tenancy agreement between the landlord and the tenant. So the best way to retrieve such money is still through the court. You still go to the court, file your court papers against that tenant who has absconded, and the court, whether he appears or not, the court will hear you and then will give his judgment. If the court finds reasonable that he has absconded with your money, the court will give you judgment against him, saying that he owes you rent and he has absconded with your money. So the court will give judgment against him, ordering him to pay certain amount of money, and the court will going to award punitive costs against him. By that is what we call damages against him, and to run into millions. Now, if he fails to honor the court judgment and implement same or execute same, you can still go back to the court, and the court will order for committal proceedings against him. By committal proceedings, the court will now order that he should be arrested wherever he can be found, give an order to the police to arrest him wheresoever he can be found, and then put him in prison until he pays the rent he owes you. So you say you can use the court system to achieve what you wanted to illegally achieve through the police by going to report to the police to arrest him. But when you go through the process of the court, it may take little time, but you will still get justice by getting the court to award you that you are entitled to the rent, and you should pay your rent, and not just pay rent but punitive damages for running away with your rent. because in court we calculate the interest that you would have gotten if those rents were paid to you. And then if he fails to honor the judgment of the court, you can bring a committal proceeding against him, and the court will now order for him to be arrested wheresoever he is in Nigeria or anywhere in the world. And then when he's arrested, he will be put in prison until he pays you your money. So you have achieved the same goal. In fact, you have achieved double goals using one means, and which is the legal means, by approaching the court. So landlords are always advised that when tenants are come with their rent, they should always go to court, use the civil means of obtaining it, because it is still debt owed, and the police is not a debt recovering agency at all. Only the court can recover debt for you, because debt accrues as a result of breach of contract, and here the contract we are talking about is the tenancy agreement. Now, having laid this foundation, we'll now come to the juice of our topic today, which is, can a landlord prevent a rent-owing tenant from leaving the premises? So what are the precautions? The precautions the landlord may take so as to prevent the tenant from absconding is maybe discussing with the estate security. Most of the area communities in Lagos State has estate arrangements, and as well they can discuss with the estate security, please watch out for this very tenant of mine and ensure that he doesn't leave with a bag from his premises. If he wants to leave with a bag, stop him not to leave with his bag in the premises, and then contact me immediately. They may involve other tenants in the premises and say, please watch out for Mr. A and Mr. B, or Mr. B who is owing me rent. If he wants to leave this premises with a bag, please prevent him from doing so. Or the landlord may decide that you may come one day and then lock the apartment of the tenant, just so as to prevent the tenant from leaving the premises without paying him his or her rent. Now, all this amounts to self-help, and they breach the fundamental rights of the tenants. And this is what we mean. And I mean, you instructed the estate security to prevent Mr. A, who is owing you rent, from leaving the estate. By doing that, you're preventing him from exercising his rights to movement, which is under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, especially in Section 41. So that will be a breach of his own fundamental rights. And you, that is the landlord that is being owed rent, he that is the tenant owing you the rent, can sue you for it and then get damages for preventing him from exercising his rights. Or if he's saying, for instance, that you should go there and then padlock his premises, apartments, and prevent him from leaving. When you padlock him and you keep him outside the premises, you are breaching his right to personal dignity, because you're not allowing him to exercise his personal dignity as a human being. He is your tenant, not your slave. And as such, when you lock him out of his premises, it is a breach of his right of personal dignity, and he can sue you for that. Or you decide to go into his apartment and scrutinize it to ensure that he has not been moving his properties in bits. That is a breach of his right to private life. So you can't do that. That amounts to self-help and a breach of his fundamental rights. So you are advised as a landlord to follow the right channel, which is through the courts, in ensuring that you get your arrears of rent. And where he is unable to pay, or where he has come with your rent, it's only through the instrumentality of the court that you can get your rent back from him. And if he fails to honor the judgment of the court, then you can bring a committal proceeding against him, and the court will order the police or any other security agency to arrest him wheresoever he is found and remand him in prison custody until he purges himself of the contempt of court by not refusing to obey the court order. And so you have achieved your aim, but using the procedure and process of the law. So I believe with today's exegesis and explanation of today's lecture series, you are well abreast that why a landlord cannot prevent a rent-owing tenant from leaving the premises by whatsoever means, either through his co-tenants or through the estate security within the estate of the premises, or through any police or security agency. The landlord can reclaim arrears of rent owed by a rent-owing tenant through the procedure of the court. And the landlord should always communicate with his lawyer, and advice will be given in that direction. So whatever you do as a Nigerian, don't indulge in self-help. Always seek for the advice as a landlord who is being owed rent by a tenant, and so that you can recover whatsoever rent that is owed you. Feel free to go to our website www.info.lawasset.com if you want to read further, and you can go to our YouTube channel Law Asset, click the subscription button and get notified whenever we post our new videos every day on different legal topics. Until we come again your way next week and same time, please make sure you keep the hope alive for a better Nigeria. Remain safe and remain blessed. Thank you and God bless you.